It's an album that I've worked on for a lot of years, since 2010, on and off, in between movie soundtracks, and it's set to James Joyce's early poems that are relatively unknown. Before he was a famous writer, he was unpublished, he was a lonely young man wandering around Dublin, and he set this book of poems that he wrote a letter to his wife saying that he wished someday somebody might set them to music.
Well, I mean, wasn't he a musician himself?
He was a piano player, and he was a tenor, and he famously came second to John McCormick, right, in the Feshkill in Ireland. And he was, I think, a frustrated musician. If you look through all of his literature, look through his poems, you'll see music in the language. You'll see him, his use of songs in Dubliners and Finnegan's Wake, and he's just, you can see this. And I think all great writers, they all use music either to write or they are inspired by great music, and it's so evident in Joyce's writing.
Yes. I mean, it's very melodic, isn't it? All his writing's very melodic, as you say. So why did you do such a thing? I mean, it's quite an undertaking, apart from him being such an amazing writer and you were feeling inspired. Why did you do this?
I did it for me, because when you're working, I'm a film composer, so when you're working on a film, you're at the mercy of the director and the producer and the editor, and you're one of a team, and there's only a certain amount of creativity that you can get away with. Something like this, the world's your oyster, and what better collaborator than James Joyce? He's one of the world's finest writers, and just I couldn't believe that it hasn't been done in a large scale before.
The amount of people that you have on this album, I mean, it's mind-boggling. The stars that you have working on this.
They all agreed to come and sing on the album, and I was very lucky, and so yeah, Judith Hill, Kurt Elling, Glenn Close, Jack L, Declan Rourke, Julian, Lennon. Julian came in and sang, and so I was very lucky to get these people.
You had Irish, you had uilleann pipes on there, and you had it jazzed up, and it was blues. It was a real collection.
Yeah, I mean, I think if James Joyce were alive today, I don't think it'd be Shamrocks and Shillelaghs somehow. He was an expat of Ireland. He lived in France, and he was a well-travelled man. And I think I've lived out of Ireland longer than I lived there. So along the way you pick up inflections of music and different styles, and jazz. I love jazz, and I love all kinds of music. And I think the thing about this album is that there's no boundaries, and I don't think there's boundaries in James Joyce. Right, he was trying to break ground, so I just went where the poems led me. I don't think it's what James Joyce would have heard in 1910, 11, 12, but I think if we were alive today, he'd love Kurt Elling, he'd love that Glenn Close is reading his poems, and
he'd approve.
So I think there's a bit of artistic license, but we'll never know.